You are listening to the Profitable Content Creator Podcast. This is the place where content creators come to learn how to create profitable content that positions themselves as an authority and grows their online businesses. Get ready to take your content to a whole new level with your host, Kristen Poborski.
Okay, so welcome to today's episode of the Profitable Content Creator. I am taking you behind the scenes of my content creation process, okay? What goes through my mind when I am creating my content? How do I plan it and how do I batch it so that I can get a boatload of content done super fast, okay? So why don't I dive into the first step that I'm going to talk about, because without a good plan in place and knowing what's going on in my marketing calendar, I don't know what content I should be creating, because the golden rule to my content is all my content relates back to my marketing efforts or my marketing calendar. What am I pushing people into? What am I teaching? What are my programs? What are my services? It all aligns. So if you're creating content that doesn't align with your marketing objectives and what you provide service-wise, program-wise, you're going to want to watch this today, because I'm going to show you how to align all of that and create content, more content fast. So let's dive into the first thing, and that is where I start my planning process. So as you can see here, I have a calendar. So this calendar here really lays out when I'm launching my courses and when I have runway content. Usually the runway content is the month prior, starts the month prior to my launch of my programs. Okay. So I go through every year and I know, and I've even got 2023 laid out. I do about 4 launches a year. Now that does not mean I only launch then. I'm not selling things at other times. I have other things going on behind the scenes, but this is what I want to be focusing on by month, what content I need to have. So as you can see, I am launching in 2022, which I'm refilming this right now. I'm launching in August and again in October. I have 2 programs. And then next year I have 4 launches. I will launch each one twice. All right. So that means I need, leading up to these launches, content, because what I want to do is get everybody into the state of mind, thinking about what problems they're having with their content creation or my other program, which is course creation, and getting them looking to see what the issues are and positioning myself as the go-to expert that will help them either create their content and market and set it up for automation, or help them build that course. And they all kind of go together, because you need both in your business to run a successful coaching and consulting business. So you can see I launch 4 times. So I need really, I like to have at least 4 weeks of content, 5 weeks of content before each one. So I know pretty much that I need right now for the rest of the year, at least since I'm launching twice, 4 pieces of content for each, if not 6. So that's like 8 to 10 pieces of content I need this year. So if you say 10, that's a good number to have, because then I've got stuff that I can do around those months or weeks where I'm not really launching something. So I keep it fresh in my mind, of my audience, that this is what I do. So that means next year I'm going to need 40 pieces of content. Okay. So let's dive into, how do I quickly create 40 pieces of content. Okay. So the first thing I always do is I have this spreadsheet here and I have my topics laid out, right? By month, what I'm going to create, kind of where I'm inspiration, my topics. So you definitely, once you know how many pieces of content you need to create, you need a calendar or some sort of organization tool, right? So I have everything in here and I have it all color coded. I have my funny colors on here, but at least this way I know what stage of production's in here. But the key thing is to get to that 40 pieces of content. It's not like 40 individual pieces of content. And this is a tip I want you guys to notice, but it is an easy way to make content. So one piece of content becomes 3, or it could be 4, depending on the questions that I'm answering. So like this one became 3 pieces of content. So I will normally film it as one piece, and then I cut it up into 3, one with the whole entire piece. And sometimes I might make 4. Sometimes I might just do the training part. So that would be the 4th piece. And then each question gets broken off as an individual piece of content. So if you go over to my YouTube channel, you will see that I have questions answered on each of these bigger topics that I cover. And then I have the whole training or video in there. So that's pretty much how, so I know I really don't need 40 videos that I have to do. It's going to be more like 10 or 15 that I can turn into 30. 20 becomes at least 40. Okay. So it's a lot of pieces of content, but that would almost do me for a whole entire year of content. Okay. And I know this is just like probably blowing your mind, but you really don't need that many pieces of content when you cut it up. So I do that. And then what I do is after I get it all laid out, I start building I have scripts. I always use a script. And let me just kind of take you behind the scenes here. I'm going to show you one of my scripts. And these scripts, I love this whole system. They take maybe 15, 20 minutes to write these scripts at the most, because I don't go into all of the details. So you can kind of see I have an introduction and then I have an outline. And this is because I always talk about things I know about, right? And then I add my questions in here at the bottom. And I always have an introduction, and I pretty much have a standard introduction that I just plop in here depending on which topic I'm talking about. And I don't really worry about in any of this if I say everything exactly how I have it laid out here. And that's why I keep it in an outline form, because it makes life a lot easier. Now, I might have things in here that I look at just to remember, oh yeah, I wanted to cover this, and I go over it and I read it before I actually film it. But at least I have everything on an outline, and it doesn't take that long to actually sit down and write the script. And then the cool thing is what I do all of these, I get them all written, and then I'll go and print out, I don't know, 6 of them. So if you think about that, 6 becomes, that's 18 pieces of content it gets turned into. It takes me maybe 2 hours at the most to film them. So I'll do either 6, and I don't really ever go longer than 2 hours to batch create my shots. But what I will do then is get them all printed out, pick out maybe 3 or 4 outfits, usually 3. And I only ever change my top when I'm doing it because it just makes life easier. So then that's on shooting day. And then I come in my office, and a lot of you have probably seen me shoot in this office. I will then come in and shoot standing up in my office because it's better energy. I always want you to stand up and shoot. And I will start by doing a little sound bite just to make sure everything's working. And it loosens me up because I notice that the more I shoot, the more I'm on video, the better, the easier it gets, and the more calmer I am. So I do that little sound bite just to make sure everything's good. Then before each one, when I have an outfit on, I spend maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I take a bunch of photos. And why do I take those photos? Because then I have a library of content photos that I can use for my social media, my thumbnails, podcasts, whatever I need to use those photos for. I have a great library. So I take all those photos and then I sit down and shoot the first batch of videos. So I usually will do 2, and they only really end up being maybe 10 to 12 minutes. Really, that is the sweet spot for your content. You don't want to film something that is 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour long. Really, the sweet spot is to keep it under 20 minutes. And that goes, the same thing is true for podcasts. My clients, when they do their podcasts, they're usually 10, 15 minutes long. I even heard my husband say the other day, I don't listen to, and I'm not going to say who it is, but it's a famous podcaster, because he goes on there for 2 hours. Who has 2 hours to listen to someone go on about their topic? So it should be the same thing about your videos, your podcast, whatever you're creating. It does not need to be so long and so involved. It needs to be short and to the point. So that way I can get through my content and create at least 6 to 10 videos in a 2-hour sitting, right? And then that goes into the next batch. And then the next batch of the process is where I actually edit. And I use this thing called Filmora. I've got the links down below. It is the easiest, and it is not very expensive tool to help you create or edit your video content. And the cool thing is I can pull the audio right out of there, and it goes right into my podcast and sits there waiting for me to just do the final pieces of publishing it. Because I am a big believer in repurposing everything that I do. Every piece of content gets repurposed, put out on multiple platforms, but it is the same piece of content. And that is why it is so awesome to be able to take one piece and cut it up into 3 or 4 pieces of content that you can repurpose and put everywhere to make your life easier. So the next thing I do is I go through the editing. I have a fast way cutting it up. I throw in a few titles, that sort of thing. It's not very fancy, and it does not need to be like super slick, but titles does help keep your watchers or your viewers' interest. And I do that. And it also helps, it makes it easier for me to actually go and do the cuts, because then I know where to cut it for which video based on when the pop-up is in the video for the title. So I do that, and then it goes into my restreaming and into my whole system, where then it goes to the blog, it goes to YouTube, it goes to podcasts, it goes out and gets syndicated everywhere. And then finally, it goes into my content repurposing, my automation, which I use 2 tools to automate my content, because it goes out again and again and again. For those people that didn't catch it the first time through, you definitely want to repeat your content out on social media. And I teach exactly how to do all of that in my Smart Simple Content Marketing and Automation program. We walk through, we have a rapid content creation system, and then I show everybody how to create a way to syndicate it and how to repeat your content in a way that does not fatigue your audience. So that's really what goes into the behind the scenes of what I personally do to create my content. But batching it, if you can adopt one thing that you do, is you build a system. I do this part, I do a bunch of videos, Then I write my scripts, then I film, and then I edit them, and then I put them out to be published, and they all get scheduled. When you start doing batching for your content creation, it makes your life so much easier, and you're not worrying and wondering every week, what should I be doing? It gets tiresome if you have to continually start from scratch, do the writing, do the video, and then have to produce it every single week. So if you follow this method, it's right there for you. And for those of you that really want to get into creating profitable content, I have the Profitable Content Creators Roadmap right below waiting for you. Okay. And now I'm going to answer a question that I get all the time. And people want to know, what is one of the most indispensable tools that I use in my content creation process? Okay. I'm going to pick one right now, and that would be Canva. I use Canva all the time, and I use it for my thumbnails, my social media posts. It is the tool that I use, that I rely upon all the time to help me create amazing looking graphics that help me stand out on social media, out on YouTube, on my blog. I don't know what I would do without it. So that is really my favorite tool. Okay. Now, the second question that I get is that people want to know, if I was going to pick one thing that would help automate your social media, and I teach this inside of my program, it is using Meet Edgar. That tool, it just takes so much work off of my plate daily. I know that my posts are going out on social media daily, and I know what's going out, and I have it all scheduled and organized in a way that makes sense and does not tire out my audience. So I use Meet Edgar to do that. And what's really cool inside of that is you can use, there's a calendar, so you could change things up and do all kinds of really cool, creative things with Meet Edgar to distribute your content out on social media, so that you don't have to work 24/7 trying to figure out what to do. I mean, how awesome would it be to have your content, know that your content is reaching the right people, and you don't have to figure out what to post every single day. So again, if you want to get started creating profitable content, I have that Content Creators Roadmap right down in the notes waiting for you. And if you like this video, audio, please leave a comment. Let me know in the notes. I would love to hear.
You've been listening to the Profitable Content Creator Podcast, where content creators go to learn how to take their content creation to the next level. If you love the Profitable Content Creator Podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give us a review on iTunes. Until next time.